Hey everyone, quick question for you. Right now, as you're watching this, are you breathing through your nose or your mouth? Take a second and check. No, seriously, check right now. Because here's something that might shock you. More than half of adults in the United States identify themselves as mouth breathers. And before you think this is just some trivial thing, let me tell you, the way you breathe affects your blood pressure, your sleep quality, your brain function, and even how much oxygen actually reaches your muscles. Today, I'm breaking down the science of why breathing through your nose isn't just better. It's actually how your body was designed to work. Let's dive in. First reason, your nose is a chemical factory that supercharges oxygen delivery. So here's the thing most people don't realize. Your nose isn't just a passive tube that air flows through. It's actually producing a gas called nitric oxide, and this stuff is incredible. Back in 1992, Science magazine named nitric oxide the molecule of the year. And there's a good reason for that. When you breathe through your nose, your sinuses continuously pump out this nitric oxide gas, and it gets carried down into your lungs with every breath. Now, what does it do there? It dilates the blood vessels in your lungs, especially around those tiny air sacs called alveoli, where oxygen transfer happens. The result is pretty dramatic. Studies show that nasal breathing increases your blood oxygen uptake by about 10%, compared to mouth breathing. Some research even reports improvements up to 18% in certain conditions. Think about that for a second. That's nearly a fifth more oxygen getting into your bloodstream just by changing which hole you breathe through. But here's where it gets really interesting. In one study with intubated patients who couldn't breathe through their noses, researchers took air samples from the patient's own nasal passages and added it to the breathing tube. Just doing that increased their blood oxygen levels by 18% and reduced pulmonary vascular resistance by 11%. The patients' bodies were literally starving for that. Nasal-derived nitric oxide. Your nose is performing chemistry that your mouth simply cannot replicate. And if you want to supercharge this effect, try humming while you breathe through your nose. Research from 2002 found that humming increases nitric oxide production by about 15 times, compared to regular nasal breathing. 15 times. So if you see me humming during workouts, now you know why. This improved oxygen delivery means better athletic performance, more mental clarity, and higher energy levels throughout your day. Your nose is literally optimizing every breath you take. Second reason, it protects your heart and lowers blood pressure. Let's talk about your cardiovascular system, because this is where the evidence gets really compelling. In January 2024, a study published in the American Journal of Physiology looked at 20 young adults and compared what happened when they breathed through their nose versus their mouth. The researchers measured everything: blood pressure, heart rate variability, the works. The results were clear. Nasal breathing significantly lowered diastolic blood pressure. That's the bottom number on your blood pressure reading, and it's a major predictor of heart disease. The researchers also found that nasal breathing increased high-frequency heart rate variability, which is a marker of parasympathetic nervous system activity. In plain English, it means your body shifted from fight-or-flight mode into rest and digest mode, just by breathing through your nose. Now, cardiovascular disease is the #1 cause of death globally. So when you find out that something as simple as breathing through your nose can lower blood pressure and improve heart rate metrics, that's not a small thing. We're talking about potentially reducing your risk for heart disease, stroke, all of those life-threatening conditions, just by being more mindful about how you breathe. Another 2024 study on cardiac patients found that nasal breathing during exercise improved ventilatory efficiency. These were people with heart failure and chronic coronary syndromes, and when they breathed through their noses, their bodies became more efficient at using oxygen during physical activity. The takeaway here is simple. Your nose is protecting your heart in ways your mouth just can't. Every nasal breath you take is like a mini treatment for your cardiovascular system, naturally regulating your nervous system and keeping your blood pressure in check. Third reason, your sleep quality dramatically improves. Okay, now let's get into sleep, because this is where a lot of people run into problems without even knowing it. About 55% of people with sleep apnea breathe through their mouths during sleep. And mouth breathing doesn't just correlate with sleep apnea, it actually makes it worse. When you breathe through your mouth, your jaw drops back, you're soft, palate collapses, and your upper airway narrows. It's a recipe for airway obstruction. In 2022, Researchers in Taiwan published a fascinating study. They took 20 people with mild obstructive sleep apnea who were mouth breathers and had them tape their mouths shut at night using hypoallergenic tape. Sounds a bit extreme, right? But the results were stunning. Their apnea-hypopnea index, which measures how many times per hour you stop or slow your breathing, dropped from 8.3 events per hour down to 4.7. That's nearly a 50% reduction. Their snoring index also improved by 47%, and their oxygen saturation levels got better too. The lowest oxygen level went from 82.5% up to 87%, just by forcing nasal breathing. Now, I need to be clear here. If you have moderate to severe sleep apnea, mouth taping is not a replacement for proper medical treatment like CPAP. In fact, a 2025 systematic review warned that mouth taping can be dangerous for some people, especially if you have nasal congestion or other breathing issues. But for people with mild sleep apnea or simple snoring, the evidence suggests nasal breathing can make a real difference. And think about what better sleep means. It affects everything: your mood, your energy, your ability to focus, your immune system. Sleep is when your body repairs itself. So if breathing through your mouth is destroying your sleep quality, you're fighting an uphill battle in every other area of your health. When you breathe through your nose at night, you're setting yourself up for deeper, more restorative sleep that actually leaves you feeling refreshed. In the morning, fourth reason, it boosts your brain and defends against infection. Here's something that really blew my mind when I read the research. The way you breathe actually affects your brain function, not just in some vague feel-good way, but in measurable, observable ways. And this has real-world implications. Research has shown that when people breathe through their mouths, their cognitive performance declines. But when they breathe through their noses, they respond faster to fearful stimuli, and they're more accurate at recognizing visual objects. So if you're trying to study, if you're trying to focus at work, if you're trying to perform under pressure, the way you breathe matters. This is also why every meditation tradition on the planet emphasizes nasal breathing. They figured out thousands of years ago what we're only now confirming in neuroscience labs: breathing through your nose calms your mind and sharpens your focus at the same time. But there's another critical benefit here that ties everything together: immune defense. Your nose is your body's first line of defense against pathogens. When air comes through your nasal passages, it gets filtered, warmed, and humidified before it reaches your lungs. But more importantly, that nitric oxide we talked about earlier has powerful antimicrobial properties. It actively neutralizes bacteria, viruses, and fungi as they try to enter your body. Studies have shown that people who breathe through their noses have fewer respiratory infections, including common colds and flu. When you breathe through your mouth, you bypass all of that. Unfiltered, unsterilized air goes straight into your throat and lungs. You're basically leaving the front door of your immune system wide open. There's also interesting research suggesting that nasal breathing might help defend against viral infections more broadly. In a world where respiratory viruses are a constant threat, breathing through your nose gives you both better brain function and stronger immune protection. Two benefits that work together to keep you healthy and performing at your best. All right, let's bring this home. Breathing through your nose increases your oxygen uptake by up to 18%. Through nitric oxide production, it lowers your blood pressure and protects your heart by activating your parasympathetic nervous system. It improves your sleep quality and can reduce sleep apnea symptoms by nearly 50%. And it sharpens your brain function while strengthening your immune defenses against infections. All of this from something you're already doing 17,000 times a day. You're just doing it wrong. Now, I get it. If you've been a mouth breather your whole life, switching to nasal breathing might feel weird at first. Your nose might even feel a bit blocked, because the muscles haven't been properly trained. But here's the thing, the more you do it, the easier it gets. Start small. During your daily walk, consciously breathe through your nose. When you're sitting at your desk, close your mouth and breathe nasally. At night, if you have mild snoring issues, talk to your doctor about whether gentle mouth taping might help. And if you have chronic nasal congestion, see an ENT specialist. I'll see you in the next one. Now close your mouth and take a deep breath through your nose. You've got this.